Hello, everybody. Jason W. It is Revolution Cave. I don't like that. That's better. Happy, happy Wednesday, midweek, as they say. A few days away from my favorite day, Sunday morning. Now I've narrowed it down to my favorite day is Sunday morning. I don't even get the whole afternoon of joy. I get about 3 hours in the morning, then I bowl with my pal, and then I'm right back in the gates of hell. But now we're down in the cave and we're shutting out the rest of the world for a little while. And it's Wednesday. We're not even on track with the program lineup. Things got off track. It's okay. It's okay. We bend. We adjust. It's Hey Do You Remember, and we're gonna take a minor break from Hey Do You Remember the '80s household. We talked about the kitchen. We talked about your bedroom. I still want to talk about our yard/neighborhood, and then whatever hodgepodge is left over from the '80s house. But now I want to catapult into a time that I don't like to talk about on this channel. You know, it's not the new '90s revolution. No, indeed, that wouldn't work. But we're going to talk about some stuff from the '90s, and actually some very, very, some very pleasurable stuff. Wrong word. A very good time in my life was happened in the '90s when I started working. And then even bigger than that when I got my first apartment. So we're going to do a first of two. Hey, do you remember the '90s, folks? And we're going to start it off with, and I'm going to make the decision right now. Am I going to talk about our first jobs, or am I going to talk about the first apartment? What should I do? Vote now. Vote now. What should we do? I'll wait while you vote. Ba 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 da ba ba. I'm waiting. Da da ba doo 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 doo. Let's do first apartment. Let's do first apartment. Right? Let's do first apartment. Hey. No, you know what? Let's do first job. Because I wouldn't have had the job, or I wouldn't have had the apartment if I didn't have the jobs. And I lost the apartment because of losing the job. So let's just save that. Let's do that next time. Let's do, hey, everybody, do you remember your first jobs? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, your first jobs. And notice I put the S on the end of jobs, because I think a lot of our jobs, no matter how many we had before we hit our career, I guess, we had a bunch of jobs back in the day, and it's not fair to just talk about one. There's so many stories affiliated with the multiple jobs that I've had. So, you don't mind if I clear out some dinner? Kind of got stuck up in there in the gums. Oh man, there it is. I think it's gone. Piece of rice, I think. Anyway, I was probably 17, maybe 17, when I got actually probably a job that should have been my favorite job in the history of life. I got a job at Toys R Us. I did. Way back at the tender age of 17, I got a job at Toys R Us. And I worked there for a day. I worked there for one day. Look, I had never, obviously, it was my first job. I had never, worked your traditional child jobs of paperboy or McDonald's. I never did any of that. My grandparents never put any pressure on me to go get a job, and they kind of funded my teenage years. So I don't know why, but I got a job at I think it was it might have been the summer of my no, it wasn't the summer of my I was 17. I was probably still 17. And I worked there a day. And I remember exactly what happened. So they hired me, and for 2 or 3 days, or for 4 or 5 days, I don't know what, you had to wear a shirt and tie to Toys R Us during your training. And I didn't have any clothes. I didn't have a shirt and tie. So I had to buy like a shirt, and I didn't know how to tie a tie. It was a mess. And I think it was a short sleeve shirt and a tie anyway, so I looked like an idiot. But they made you do that for your training, your like, whatever it's called, your, I don't know, that introductory period, whatever that's called. Orientation, that's what it is. So they had me initially on, they wanted me as stock. So I was going to work in the back of Toys R Us. And that was absolutely dreadful that day. Nobody was training me. I didn't know where anything was. And basically, you either worked a truck or you waited for the front desk person, the cashier, to like call back an order for like a swing set or a bike or something like that. And they would talk over this PA system that sounded worse than like the McDonald's drive-through. And so they'd be like, "Oh, could you bring out the little tanks slide and swing set, please?" And I'm like, what was that? And then you're supposed to know where the little tyke slide and swing set is, or the gigantic 700-pound swing set. You're supposed to get that into somebody's car, right? Somebody's Ford Focus. And it just was dreadful. I didn't know what to do. I hated every second of it. And so I, at all of my 17-year-old, entitled self, I said, "Look, it's too stressful back here. I don't want to work the back room. Is there anything else I can do here at Toys R Us?" And so they put me on register, which was equally dreadful. So I was just training with some. So that's the second half of day one. Instead of just telling me to leave, they're like, "All right, well, we'll give you the register job," right? I didn't like that either. Too many buttons. There were customers there. Anyway, I went home, and I didn't show up for work the next day. And I think eventually they sent me like a $22 paycheck. It was horrible. So that was my first job. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. The first best job I ever had was a dishwasher position. Absolutely. I think everybody in their teenage years should have a dishwasher position. And this was not at a famous restaurant. It was at something called a Moose Lodge, which is basically a senior citizen hangout. It's an old people clubhouse. And they were only open Wednesday, Fridays, and Saturdays. And so they'd have dinner dances Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. The old people would come, they'd eat their dinner, and then they'd dance to like really just, 1940s music. And they'd go home at 11 o'clock after, drinking, 7 Manhattans or Fuzzy Navels or Rob Roys or whatever old people drink. That was the best. That was summer of 94. I think. Yeah, I think it was summer of 94. And it was the greatest. It was the greatest job ever. I had a partner back there, and we were buddies, and we would wash the dishes together. We'd come up with ways to do it quicker. The cook would make us a meal, so we'd get like a half hour, 45-minute dinner break while the people were eating, because there weren't going to be dishes, while the people were eating. So that's when we could take our little break. I had to make the salads for the people. I had to do all that. Set up like this salad buffet. It really, really, really generic-y, cheap looking place. No, no glamour at all. The cook would make us the dinner. My friend and I would sit in the back bar room that was empty and unused, and they had the biggest, ugliest projection screen TV, and we would just, watch Saturday Night Wrestling, TBS. We would watch WCW Saturday Night in 94 while doing dishes. We also learned that Kurt Cobain died while at that job. So that'll tell you the date that I was there. They made we were watching MTV and the announcement came on. I remember it. Kurt Loder, saying that Kurt Cobain was dead. And we were right there washing dishes that night. We'd have our radio. We could listen to music while we were washing. It was great. It was great. I loved it. I loved that job. I stayed there probably 2 years. Probably 2 years I did that. Then the mall started. Then the mall started. I got a job at American Eagle. That was my very first mall job. And I was probably, again, 18 or so, 18, 19 years old. Got a job at American Eagle and loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know I was 19, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I loved that job. The mall jobs for a kid is a social windfall. It is so many, especially a store like American Eagle that is all teenagers. Just so fun. So fun. I'm working cash register. I'm putting clothes out on the floor. They got this stupid way of folding t-shirts. It's dreadful. But I got that. I'm pulling jeans out of the back and stacking them on the shelves. They got a special way of folding those too. But the social interaction. I got my first girlfriend from that, my first real girlfriend from that store, from American Eagle. That first girlfriend lasted probably a month, and it was a miserable, horrible experience, but she qualifies as my first girlfriend. At the time of American Eagle, Finish Line, the sneaker store, was coming in to a vacant store next to American Eagle, and I was greeter one day at American Eagle. You know what greeter is, right? You stand outside with coupons, and you go, hey, just so you know, all of our t-shirts are buy two, get one free. It's a pretty great sale. Go check them out. Yeah, here you go. Here's your coupon. That was awful. But the greeter, or the assistant manager from Finish Line, as they were setting up the store, came over and was like, hey, you like working here? I'm like, no, not at all. All right, you should come check out Finish Line. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. And then started working at Finish Line. Same deal. Great time. Finish Line was a brand new store that was opening in the area. And we had, 15, 18 employees, 3 managers. It was great. And I became best friends with the assistant manager. At the time, he was my absolute best friend. I ended up being a best man at his wedding. And so I had so many perks of being the manager's best pal. We had so much fun. He and I would go out together. That's when kind of, not the partying, I guess the partying, you want to call it partying. That's when a lot of drinking happened. Drank a lot back then. Then one day, so girlfriends from Finish Line, yes, that is when my real first girlfriend happened. She worked up in the mall also, upstairs. The mall was 2 levels, and she worked upstairs at a women's clothing store. And we were young and got together, and that was kind of my first and most memorable girlfriend, the kind of the first introduction to a lot of things. And so that store is special. And then I was still living home, and then Finish Line, I guess, was starting. No, I think I was starting to get good at retail and wanted to do management. And so there was a former American Eagle employee, my first job, who was the store manager of Lids, the hat store. And he recruited me to be the assistant manager of Lids, the hat store. And I kid you not, folks, this is 1995, and I was making $6.50 an hour. As the assistant store manager at Lids, I was making $6.50 an hour. I kid you not. And I did that for a little while, and then the store manager left, and I became the store manager of Lids. And that is when my world exploded with fun. Because I went from $6.50 an hour, folks, get ready, sit down if you are standing, stand up and then sit back down if you're sitting, because I'm going to tell you what my salary was, folks. The store manager of Lids, a store as big as the Cave down here, right, that sold strictly hats. This store paid me, I don't like to talk about numbers, very personal. The store paid me $19,000 a year. How about that? 19, no, not 90. Don't get to 19, 19. And I remember the district manager who, gave me the manager spot. We were sitting in the food court of the mall, and I agreed to take the store. That's what you call it when you're the manager. You're like, oh, you're going to get the store. The store's yours. I got my store. So I got my store. I was sitting up there talking. He's like, you're going to get, you got your store. Let's talk salary. And he actually did the gimmick where you write down the salary on a piece of paper and slide it. And then I'm like, Kenny Rogers playing poker. And he actually said, folks, I kid you not, he wrote down $19,000. And his line was, "You're rolling with the big dogs now." You're rolling with the big dogs now. And I was like, damn right I am. And that was the greatest. That was the greatest time I'd ever had, almost in the history of adulthood. We can't count childhood, adulthood. The store was mine. I was doing the scheduling. I was hiring the staff. The mall was so social. I would book myself open to close on Saturdays and Sundays. I would close on Fridays, but I would book myself 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturdays, and I think it was 11 to 6 on Sundays. I would take both shifts because it was such a social event. Working open to close on a Saturday, better than going out. And then I'd go out afterwards because my best friend was still the assistant manager at Finish Line. So we'd still go out together, and we're not going out until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So the party is just beginning. So many fun things, so many events, so many things to see in the mall, so many people, fun relationships with everybody in the mall. I mean, I was, I can proudly say that I dated the Dairy Queen girl that was across the hall, not across the aisle from the store, from Lids. And the manager of the Dairy Queen and I were friends, and he would give me, he'd make me up this giant plate of nachos and just drop it off for me. And, when I was working in the morning, I'd eat that for free. And, there might have been a trade-off. He might have been like, hey, can I, and I'm like, whatever. Dairy Queen, the girl up at the Levi's store, I recruited to be the assistant manager just because I wanted to, date her. And I did. And, you could just call your shots. It was so fun. The store ran itself. There was no inventory. Once a week I'd get a little box of hats that I had to just put out on the shelves. It was the greatest time I'd ever had. It was the greatest time I'd ever had working at that little store. So great, it led to the apartment. And we'll talk about the apartment next episode. But I had $19,000 a year. It's time for me to get an apartment, folks. And I had an apartment. It was $450 a month. I had a $205 car payment, and I was good. I can't even remember what I think I was making about $680 every 2 weeks. So I was what is that? Like just over $1,300 a month I was making. And it was enough for that apartment and that car and maybe a cable bill, phone bill. There was no internet. And I really don't think there were any groceries, but we're going to talk about the apartment next time. But the apartment led to so much stuff. I mean, the apartment, again, led to just a ridiculous increase in social activity, a ridiculous increase in dating activity. But we'll save that. So what happened with Lids was I was really caught up with the assistant manager. It became a soap opera. The store became a soap opera because of our dating and then not dating. And then come to find out she had a boyfriend the whole time, whatever. And so I really kind of let the store go. And then I got back with the first girlfriend from when I was at Finish Line, and her and I were kind of seeing each other again before she went off to college. And really, I was doing nothing for the store. I was a terrible manager. And I remember going to work one morning to open the store on a weekday, and you're supposed to be there at 10, you're supposed to be there 9:30 to open the doors at 10. I strolled in at about 20 after 10, and the district manager was there, and he gave me the old, you have two choices, you can resign or I can fire you. And I was like, all right, and I remember going back to my apartment and going back to bed, and then getting up and starting to call, Aeropostale and call Finish Line again and call Structure, whatever other mall stores. and tried to get hired somewhere. And I didn't get hired. And instead of getting hired, I got sick. I got really sick. I had some kind of weird viral thing, weird virus. My eyes were bleeding. Wait, no, that's not the. I had a really bad, like, pink eye / pneumonia. And I was in the hospital. I went to the hospital and I wasn't working. And, my grandparents were like, all right, come back home. I had to break my lease. And I went back home after probably about 7 or 8 months in the apartment. I went back home. And then, we'll tell that story later on. But look, any job that I've had, from the dishwasher to lids, has been the greatest time ever. Those first jobs are they're so important. Those first jobs shaped a lot of my youth and really introduced me to social activity and romantic activity and all. It was just, look, if your kids have an opportunity to work in the mall, I strongly suggest they do it. But what a blast. What a blast. How important these first jobs are. And I think, Liam's already talking about, like, when I work at McDonald's. And I'm like, yeah, man, work at McDonald's. Work at McDonald's, goof around with the staff, throw fries at each other, joke around, whatever, do that crap and get fired. Get fired for, blowing it off because your friend. I remember, again, probably this is all before college, folks. This is all before I became a responsible human being. I had a job at a hotel. I had a girlfriend. I had a job at a hotel. It was my first night. I was training. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And my girlfriend and her friends were going to the beach. And so I just said I had to go to the bathroom and walked out the door and never came back. I've quit 2 jobs after day 1 just because I was young and stupid, and my girlfriend and her friends were going to the beach, and I just didn't think that was fair. I was 21, I think. So, I was still mature, but stupid, mature and immature at the same time. But none of those events have scarred me. They have all added. Getting fired from lids, getting sick, having to lose my apartment added to my life. There's no regrets, no regrets when it comes to that first job. No regrets, as they say. So anyway, that's whatever happened to our first jobs. Tell me yours. Did you have a blast like I did? Did any of you get the chance to work in the mall in the 90s? It was the best time ever. Put the stories down below. We'll see y'all next time. Good night now.